Well, good morning, my friend. Welcome to the Pastor's Podcast. Good to have you with me on Tuesday morning, September the 16th. And just looking forward to another great day of serving the Lord. What a great start yesterday, going out soul winning, getting out. Boy, yesterday was a packed day. Got a lot of things done. And God's still on the throne. And just a good day out soul winning yesterday. And then following up with people last night. That was exciting to see. And now we get on into today, looking forward to seeing what God can do as we go forward, trying to serve the Lord and getting ready. This is a busy week. The next 2 weeks are really busy for me. And I'm a little bit packed, a little bit more than normal. And but I'm thrilled. I'd rather be busy serving the Lord than be free to play in the world. And as long as I can stay busy serving the Lord, I'll be able to do some great things for the Lord. And that's what I so desire in my life. And I hope that you do too as well, as we look forward to continuing serving the Lord. Today, let's look at Ezra chapter 6 and verse 5. And I want you to notice what it says. And also let the golden and silver vessels of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took forth out of the temple, which is at Jerusalem, and brought into Babylon, be restored. And brought again into the temple, which is at Jerusalem, everyone to his place, and placed them in the house of God. Darius is one of the great spiritual leaders of Babylon. Whether he was saved or not, we don't know. There's a part of me that believes that maybe he was. But one thing we do know is that God used him as a great tool to restore the temple and to save the life of Daniel. That's what we do know. Now, Israel had been in captivity for years now because of their sin. The temple was in ruins. The golden and silver vessels that were once used in the temple now sit in the king's treasury. As the decree to restore the temple had been made, Darius also commanded that the golden and silver vessels be restored and brought back to the temple where they belonged. Now, this is an encouraging truth to me for those who have messed up their life in sin. The word that grabs my attention in this verse is this: vessels. That's interesting. Every fallen believer is still a vessel of God that he wants to use and can use again if they will be restored and others are willing to use them. Now, I want us to never forget that those who are fallen are still God's children. Yes, they've done something that marred their usefulness, but they're still a vessel of God. And God is still able to restore and use them again. And may I remind you, all of us are fallen vessels. Everybody falls every day. Even those who put out their little podcast and want to expose everybody, I'm still waiting for them to put out their own podcast and expose themselves. I'm just waiting for it. If they're so honest, I'm waiting for them. These who want to expose everybody and write books to expose everybody, I'm still waiting on them to write the book about what they have done to expose their sin, because they're so interested in cleaning up a movement. By the way, we're not a movement, we're a local independent Baptist church, that they forgot to take care of themselves first. And so until they do that, they're disingenuous frauds that I wouldn't listen to, wouldn't give a time of the day for. They're little men that are going after someone that God has used greatly, and they're voices of Satan because they're being disingenuous about the word of God. If they're so worried about the word of God, then expose their own sins first. Let us see what they've done first. Because, and by the way, that is Bible. I know they forgot to read that part of the Bible. But God said, instead of worrying about the beam or the splinter in somebody else's eye, let's look at the beam in our own head. But they forgot to do that. I know. Because they're so spiritual, trying to clean everything else up, that they are the biggest frauds I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I mean that. They're huge frauds, because they're always rejoicing when someone's fallen. That's not what God said. God says restore the vessels. So there are several things these vessels must accept if we're to restore them. First, you can never go back to where you were. Now, one thing that keeps people from being restored is they can't get over the fact of what they used to do. Now, they were a golden and silver vessel at one time, but they've done something that caused them not to be used in their original condition. Don't get this wrong. They still have gold, they still have silver, but in their original condition, they're not going to be the same. They're probably marred up a little bit, and they probably got some problems on them right now that being carried from Babylon, from Jerusalem to Babylon caused. And can I say this right now? We've got to move on from what, if you're going to be restored, you've got to move on from what you used to be to accept where you are if you're going to be restored. Second, you cannot undo your past. These vessels were taken to Babylon, and that will never change. So you've done something wrong. You're still God's vessel, and God still wants to use you. You can live a life sitting and mourning about your past, or you can get up and do something with what your life has now. To sit and wallow in your past never helps us to be restored. So God can use us again. Third, God still has a purpose where he can use us. He always has. I love the phrase that the vessels were to be brought again unto the temple. Now, God is never done using you no matter what you have done. The omnipotence of God is capable of using a restored vessel. Never let the critics determine your future. Let God be God in your life and allow him to restore you into a vessel that can be used in his church. Fourth, you will never be restored until you get back to serving. So these vessels were brought to be used in the service of the temple, not to be set on a shelf while they're being restored. Nobody is restored by sitting. I want you to get that. They're restored by serving. The full process of restoration is through service. Therefore, get involved in some ministry, for it is the service that God restores you to. Fifth, whatever you do, keep your walk with God. So likely the reason you messed up is because you lost your walk with God. So the best way to be restored is to keep a close walk with God in the scriptures and prayer. Stay faithful to every service. Keep going soul winning, and you're going to find that God can use you as a vessel in his church again. Now, my friend, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Let's not listen to the sleaze media that tries to expose everybody that's done wrong but themselves. That's what sleaze media does. Again, I go back, and I know they'll probably get this, and I hope they do. Until they're ready to expose their sins, their sleaze media, a voice of the devil trying to destroy the church of God, because that's all they are. Because if I read my Bible right, there is none righteous, no, not one. If I read my Bible right, a man who says he has no sin deceiveth himself. I thought that's what my Bible says. So until they're ready to expose their sin and understand that their sin is just as wicked as every other sin, until they do that, they're sleaze media. They're little men. I won't call them men, little boys that trying to become men, but they can't hold a candle to the men of the past that they're trying to destroy. Can I tell you right now, we've got to understand God is a God of restored vessels. And if God can restore us, my friend, and he will, then we've got to do our part as fallen vessels to say, okay, God, whatever you want to use me for, I'm willing to be used. Isn't God a great God? I'm so glad that he is, because the truth is, if all be known, all of us here today who are listening or will listen, all of us at some point have done something that God covered and said, oh, I can't believe my child would do that. But God never stopped loving us, and God still wants to use us. Let's never forget that. God's a God of restoration. Now, we must restore others just as God restores us. And if we'll do that, God can use us in a great and mighty way. Well, my friend, I hope this is a great help to you today. Now, let's remember, be good to everyone. Everyone's having a tough